like I said last week, we initially were, I think it was important to be a little skeptical about some of that crap that went on with Bayonetta 3. Basically, if you're not aware, Helena Taylor, who was the previous voice actress, she came out, she posted all these videos that went viral and tweets and stuff. And she said, oh, no, they tried to pay me $4,000 to voice act for an entire game. So, and she specifically asked people to boycott Bayonetta 4 or 3 or whatever the hell this game is, and to not buy it because they had treated her so badly. And everybody, like, it started this whole discussion about wages for voice actors and actresses in the industry and how terrible and greedy this company was, all of that stuff. Turns out, it wasn't true, I think is the official term for what she was doing. So basically, she tweeted this out this morning or late last night at 11:24 p.m. Where she says, like, it has come to my attention that some people are calling me a liar and a gold digger. I feel the need to defend myself and my reputation in the industry. See the thread. So bear in mind, initially she said she was making $4,000. She said that she was offered $4,000 and that she was insulted and walked away. Look at this, how she starts it. As I posted on part 3 of my video thread, I explained that their first offer was too low. That offer was $10,000 in total. Remember, this is a $450 million franchise, not counting merchandise. I then wrote in Japanese to Hideki Kamiya, maybe, asking for what I was worth. So first of all, let's just take these a tweet at a time. My understanding is Bloomberg has already shown that this is not true, the initial offer, because they have the documentation provided to them by Platinum Games or the studio and publisher. So they can already dismiss this portion of it. Can zoom in a little, make it a little easier for you guys to read. And as for $450 million franchise, this is just patently absurd. There's some replies down here that make it clear. Yeah, so lifetime sales of the entire series coming out at like 3,090,000 just doesn't make sense. At the very best, Platinum made roughly $185 million if every copy was sold at an MSRP of $60, which I doubt. And that also just would describe revenue. It wouldn't describe profits. So easily, because this doesn't take into account expenses. So if each of these games costs $20 million to make or $15 million to make or $10 million to make, whatever, you've got to subtract that from this. And that's how much profit the actual franchise generated. Because you can say like, oh, it's a $450 million franchise. Or if this, you could say it's a $185 million franchise. But if it like costs $200 million to make it, it doesn't really count, right? It's like all of those, those big movies, like what was it? The Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds back in the day. They spent $200 million making that movie and it lost like $100+ million. It was just a total flop. Yeah, I don't think it's fair to call that a $200 or $200 million franchise. Maybe a $200 franchise, but certainly not a $200 million franchise when it's losing money, right? So it just doesn't really make sense. So already, first tweet of the thread, and there's multiple problems. So she wrote in Japanese to Hideki to ask what she was worth, for what she was worth. According to Bloomberg, this is like $100,000. She wanted $100,000. I thought that as a creative, he would understand that she wants $100,000. Like, no, it's business. He replied saying how much he valued my contribution to the game and how much the fans wanted me to voice the game. I was then offered an extra $5,000. Does she mean 50,000 or 5,000? I'm guessing 5,000 if she put a comma. So I declined to voice the game. I then heard nothing from them for 11 months. Then they then offered me, a flat fee to voice some lines for $4,000. Any other lies, such as 4,000 for 5,000 or 5 sessions, are total fabrications. So she started. They then offered me a flat fee to voice some lines for $4,000. In her first video, she said that she was offered $4,000 for the entire game. Turns out she had already turned down the whole game and was referring and very sneakily like worded it where she was offered $4,000 to voice her entire like role in the game, but she pleasantly leaves out that that was basically just a small cameo at that point. They were going to have her come in and voice another character for like a few lines, and it was going to be like a fun little wink and nod to the original voice actress for $4,000. Get a cameo and get paid for it. And so again, very, very sneaky. Any other lies? Yeah, total fabrications. There were not, quote, extensive negotiations. I've also been informed of ridiculous fiction, such as I asked for $250,000. I'm a team player. I was just asking for a fair living wage in line with the value that I bring to this game. Well, apparently you're not bringing much value because they dumped you pretty quickly. I was paid a shockingly low total of £3,000 for the first game. A little more for the second. I wanted to voice her. I have drummed up interest in this game ever since I started on Twitter in 2011. So again, the story changes. Just keeps changing. And as you see here, your defense is to admit that you lied and misled with your videos. You intentionally omitted details in the videos, now confirm the financial offers reported by Bloomberg, which exposed your fabricated story, and you think this is a defense that benefits you. And the best comment in response: well, to be fair, it makes total sense when you don't think about it. Which is true. And Jason Schreier, who initially came out with the info to just be like, hey, this doesn't make sense. He came out and said, former Bayonetta voice actor Helena Taylor now confirms my reporting that she was offered at least $15,000 and that the final offer was for a cameo, despite the claims in the video that went viral last week. Again, that $4,000 claim that she made was only with regards to a cameo. It wasn't to voice the whole game, which is what she said it was for. He then goes on, I've seen a number of people, including respected industry pundits and professionals who loudly supported the original video, suggest that the story is murky or that they should wait to hear both sides. Hopefully now they find it a little clearer. Jason Schreier throwing shade. There are also some who went after me over the last week for siding with capital over labor. First of all, my job is to side with the truth. Second, consider the labor that was harmed here. Developers, localizers, even other voice actors. Getting the truth out helps them all, which is absolutely true. Which she was openly calling for the boycotting of this game, throwing a fit because they wouldn't pay her what Jason Schreier reported was $100,000, which is what she initially demanded. Let's see if we can find trying to save their ass and the game. Again, she just came out very clearly lying. Yeah, it's a total mess. Yeah, Taylor asked for a 6-figure fee and residuals. Negotiations fell apart. So again, she pleasantly kind of bypasses this when she says that she reached out to, I'm not sure what this person's role is, but reached out to him and asked for a fair wage. According to Jason Schreier, this was a 6-figure fee and residuals, which is freaking insane. I would bet, I don't know this for a fact, but I would bet very good money that Troy Baker didn't even get a pay that high for voicing Joel in the original Last of Us. I would be shocked if he got anywhere close to that. Getting paid residuals is something that is not extremely common in the voice acting world, in video games at least, unless you are a staple voice actor for a major franchise, like voicing Kratos in God of War, or voicing, like, I was going to say Mario, but they just swap you out if you're going to voice Mario. Duke Nukem, maybe, if that franchise was worth more. What's another franchise? I don't know, maybe like somebody in Gears of War, or I mean, even The Last of Us. Nathan Drake. Yeah, Nathan Drake is probably a really good example, because Nathan Drake, you can't just swap out, right? Like, for a lot of people, like Mario, you can, like, let's be honest, you can hire another voice actor as long as it's not Chris Pratt to voice him, and it'll probably work. Most people, probably 99% of people, won't recognize it. Kevin Conroy for Batman. Yep, that's a great example. Or Mark Hamill playing the Joker. You know, that's such a unique thing, and you can't just sound like that they probably did get paid residuals. And honestly, like, if I were a betting man, I would assume that Mark Hamill probably had one of the healthiest paychecks of voice acting in gaming, like, ever. Probably because he got residuals, because he has those like a crazy good Hollywood agent to negotiate it, and that game did tremendously well. He's probably still getting paychecks from that. You know, those residuals are where the real money comes from. When you look at somebody like The Rock, who's making $100 million in a year, that money isn't coming from just his upfront paycheck. It's coming from him accepting, hey, don't pay me anything upfront, but I'll take 10% of anything that the movie generates. Then the movie generates 200 million. He makes 20 million. Easy money, you know, and it incentivizes him to promote it and do press and things, because if it does well, he gets paid more, right? So all of this just to say, it does go to show you that you should not necessarily believe a story when you first read it without looking into it a little more carefully, especially when it just seems to make no sense at all, which the initial story, like we talked about it on stream, it didn't make sense. Like it just didn't add up. She was saying all of this stuff and it was like, I don't, like $4,000 for an entire game? That doesn't make sense. So either they've lost their minds or there's something fishy going on. And eventually the truth came out, which is tremendous. And I'm glad that they took the steps to share info with Jason Schreier, let him put it out there and communicate all of it. It's great. It's great. It's good to see. So the truth prevailed. All told, if you were even slightly interested in Bayonetta 3, go out and get it. You know, rock and roll. But yeah, as for motivations, I've been trying to think of what her game was with this. Like, what was her end goal with all of this? She posted all these videos. She tried to make this whole thing. These videos that she put out. She tried to like create this whole thing. Yeah, what you're doing is admirable. Lost me with religious talk. Oh, yeah. It just comes off as her trying to not just take the ball and go home, but like go scorched earth and ruin the game for everybody else. And this is why, like, what Jason Schreier said was important, because this hurts everybody. This isn't just a matter of what's good for her, what's good for the game, what's good. Like, this hurts all of the developers. As I've said before, a lot of the developers that work on these games, they get paid bonuses based on the Metacritic scores and the sale numbers and things. So her calling for people to openly boycott the game is a horror. Like, it's an evil thing to do, especially when she knows that she's lying about it. It's insane. I think probably at the core, what happened is she thought she was worth more to them. She thought she could come in and demand $100,000 or $250,000. And when they said, no, we can't do that, the game's budget is like $2 million. We can't do that. They walked away, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna burn all of this. You'll regret this. So she's gonna march off. Do you think her career is dead? I mean, certainly in the gaming space, but she said when she posted these videos that she was done with the gaming world. She was not going to do any more voice acting work for them. I don't know. It's just such a weird thing to do. Like, you fling crap, you're going to get crap on you. She just ruined her career in the gaming space. So